Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so blessed today on the Kelly Brewer Show to welcome Frankie Randazzo and Carl Richardson. If y'all don't know these guys, you soon will. And, well, let's dive right in. Really appreciate you guys being here. I know y'all are busy and a lot going on, summertime. So talk about what's near and dear to your heart, I suppose. I mean, I know you guys play music together, y'all. Oh my gosh, the band I saw at the Bayou Cafe. Holy crap, that sounded so good, and I had no idea Todd was a drummer. So,
was that Stark Experiment?
Yeah, is that what it's called? Well, he was on drums.
Did you play with us?
That was Stark Experiment that
Y'all
you
on
saw.
a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Todd, you, and
Oh,
you,
I
and
know
then
what this was. This was like a special deal where he wanted to bring more people in. So he had you, and Aaron played too, right?
this was not maybe a month ago. Y'all were on a Wednesday. So that's just a thrown together deal. Y'all aren't even a band. It's just like, hey, let's do some.
Well, that's in
do some
keeping with the
songs.
name of that band.
It's just a phenomenal. It's a pleasure to watch. I really appreciate y'all bringing it to Vider, because Vider's just so quiet and we're so, laid back. And we really needed something like like Rick and Jack's Bayou Cafe. I mean, it's everybody's so excited to be there, and that's what they told me. Man, wow, I never thought Vider would have something like this, and they're so excited. So I just want to say thank you for everybody. That's
There's
really
a
enjoying
tremendous
what
amount of
y'all
talent
have
in
brought.
Vider. Tremendous amount.
It's
of
so
talent.
weird, isn't it?
No, there's some great singers and players and performers.
You guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, me and Kelly were the same tribe.
Mm-hmm.
no doubt.
Mhm.
Tribe. I texted you. I saw history made last week. I witnessed it. And, it's something that actually I've been working my whole life to try to, a lot of people leave. They left Vider. And that's fine. They're looking for work, whatever. We stayed, and we have been cleaning up Vider, one house at a time, since the 70s. And, I've taken a lot of flack for being from Vider, a lot of flack. And everywhere I go, people know Vider. It doesn't matter where I'm at.
Yeah,
I'm on a motor. I'm in freaking South Dakota. Where y'all from? I'm from Vider. Well, you're from you claim Vider. So I've been fighting it my whole life. Last week, maybe the curse will be broken. Kenneth Turner, War Pigs, right? And that's a drum song right there. And we got it on video. Todd sent it to me of a black man getting a standing ovation, Main Street, Vider, Texas. I hope he said he would. Ken said he would come on, and he would.
I thought he was coming to this.
Interview. And I'm going to ask him if it's okay if I use that video to show something like that.
I think it was great that people saw a fantastic musician and fantastic individual. I'm sorry, a fantastic musician and fantastic individual play with the passion and commitment that he does, and that's a gift that he has given to everybody. And we've worked with him now for many, many years in many, many projects. He's our go-to because there's nothing he can't do.
Right.
And he's so humble about it.
Right.
We'll be in rehearsal for whatever project or gig we're hired for, and he'll be playing. And then the minute we're at the actual gig, there's a switch that's flipped, and the star comes out.
Yeah.
And I've seen Ken do some crazy things the past couple of years where he stepped out from behind the kit, sings a song,
Oh my gosh.
ends up on the floor kicking and screaming as part of the skit.
Are you serious?
And people are just eating it up. And if you met Ken 5 or 10 years ago, you're like, there's no way that man's going to do that.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of personal development on all of our parts, but Ken coming out and doing that is just, I look at him sometimes on stage and I'm like, what just happened? It's awesome.
Have you seen the band, Catalina?
I have not seen y'all yet.
So, yeah, Ken is one of those surprise moments that we were talking about. Because he's on drums and he sings one or two songs, mostly harmonies, and then he'll jump up front and Jason Touche gets on drums, and people kind of perk up a little bit, those who are into that. But, I think that multifaceted approach from, whether it's having multiple singers in the band, you discover that as you watch the show, or multi-instrumentalists. That's just another element that makes it interesting to watch.
Nothing but raves. I hear nothing but raves about Catalina. Well, so what interests me is really more of a personal thing, and I don't know if you guys want to get down into this, just individual sort of stories, but you're a young man, you're pounding, you're driving, you're just banging up against the walls. Was there an event, or was there did somebody grab you by the scruff of the collar and shake you and say, "Hey, try this"? Or was there a single thing that sort of turned you to become the people that you are now? Was there a phrase? Was there a trauma? Was there a, I don't know, what happened? How did y'all get here, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
That's a pretty heavy question.
It is. And I didn't really warn y'all beforehand, so.
Well, it's easy to lose sight of those moments. I'd say there are probably multiple times that happens in a person's life because we live it day to day. So it's almost like, losing weight or something. You don't see it, or people that live with you daily don't see it because it's incremental. This is probably true in that case as well. But, yeah, I can't. It's really hard to point to one moment for me.
Yeah.
Because we become who we are over time,
Well, think about it for a second. Frankie.
It's kind of the same for me. I think, I'm 50 years old now, and music's always been my passion. The career choice that I took allowed me to have some flexibility and make a living and be around that world, being in the restaurant business and having great musicians surround what we do nearly every day.
What made you start in the restaurant business? That's one of the hardest things.
This is a long story. So my house flooded in '01, Tropical Storm Allison. I'd been hired on by Edward Jones after working for 7 years for a paging company. And I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I started working for Buck down at Handlebar South on Wednesdays for $50. And the moment for me personally, my paradigm shift, you mentioned this earlier, I was with Living Proof, Kalen Doherty, Shane Coward,
I remember those
Cody
guys.
Robbins, Brett Sensat, and we were in.
Was Keith Bowman in it at the time?
Keith was in the original Midnight Ride.
Yeah.
And that's.
He just died.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Keith was an amazing
Amazing.
person, amazing father, an amazing musician, and I played with him in Midnight Ride for a couple of years, and that became Living Proof.
Yeah.
And Living Proof had a lot of success.
Right,
and then I was on the tail end of the last couple of years of
I
Living
got
Proof. We were in Monroe, Louisiana, playing at a place called Mickey's, and the owner was there the whole night, and he wasn't doing anything. He was drinking at the bar. He had his arm around two girls the whole night. He leaves with two girls at the end of the night, and I'm playing, and I'm watching this all go down, and it occurred to me that he didn't pay any attention to his business, and I was like, I can do what this guy does, and I can do it better, because he just was partying. He was just having a good time.
Yeah.
To the point where they left us in the bar to load out, and all the employees left, and they literally told us, hey, drink whatever you want, just make sure the door locks on the way out.
Wow.
And we got so drunk at that gig that we all went to the Waffle House that night, and that was one of the last gigs the band ever did because it was just off the rails.
Yeah.
And I came back home, and I called Buck, and I was doing some of his booking at the time, and it was 20-something years ago, so like Carl said, though, it's incremental. You wake up one day and, like, something that used to matter to you a lot that doesn't move the needle doesn't matter anymore, and you let it go, and, like.
But that was a catalyst. That was a
Big
point.
catalyst for me personally,
Just being in a negative environment.
Seeing the opportunity,
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I'm older now. I have a 2-year-old son, and he's changed my focus completely.
Right.
Completely changed my focus. And I'm surrounded by great musicians and great friends. We have this little collective now of 8 or 10 people that we work with on a very regular basis, and everybody knows what to expect. And my new mantra, my paradigm now is it worth the argument? Like, does it really matter?
Choose your battles.
At the end of the day, is it worth the argument?
Right.
Am I going to get beat up a little bit on this side? Is it worth the argument? And I'm trying to find more peace and more reward.
Would you say you take the path of least resistance as long as it makes sense more now
As long,
than
I
when you were
mean,
younger?
the path, yeah, for sure. You know, the path of least resistance
There you go.
sometimes will get you taken advantage of.
Right.
And that's a very hard situation for me personally, being a musician and advocating for pay and respect at a gig, you know, and the things that we expect when we go perform somewhere. And then being a venue owner that wants to provide that same opportunity and having that juggle, that balance, because sometimes you're gonna make somebody upset because some of the decisions on either side of that fence.
Expectations.
Sometimes the decision on either side just isn't realistic or long-term. And if I make a commitment to somebody, if I hire somebody to be a manager or a cook or a performer, I want that to be a sustainable relationship.
Right.
And I don't want to promise the world. The best example of that was a friend of mine got hired on years ago at Starvin' Marvin's. Remember when that place was open? He got hired on, and they were paying him $500 a night, once a week, to host their open mic night. And he was on a house gig with me. And I said, hey, go do that gig. You can come back when it's over, because that's not a sustainable business model.
Right.
That you can't pay a single person $500. And he was back in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
You know, and you want your friends to prosper.
Right.
But as an operator, I also knew that wasn't sustainable.
Gotcha.
You know, so I said, go make that money. You know,
Sure.
come back. Your chair's going to be here. You know, and he did. And he came back, and then we had fun with that. But yeah, like incremental paradigm shift every couple of years. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we change from day to day, from week to week, year to year, but we don't always feel that. And you also, I don't think many of us dwell on those turning points, those moments. For me, I think music and art has always driven me in sort of a subconscious way, you know. I mean, I became a teacher, and that has allowed me to sustain myself in a very consistent, stable way.
I didn't
And
know
that
you were a
facilitates, yeah.
Like at school, at high school or something?
I teach in a commercial music program.
Oh, wow.
I almost said performance. That's my program. Of the many degrees we have, I teach mostly performance-based
Oh, I
classes.
did not know that.
So it's mostly geared toward audio engineering, tech-based stuff. This is at Lamar State College, Port Arthur.
Wow, cool.
And I taught a lot of private lessons before starting there in 2011. But that's sort of been my life, you know, teaching to facilitate a life that is also full of performing. We're all musicians.
Right.
You know why we do
Right.
what we do,
Right.
because we love it. And it keeps you young. For me personally, I'm 45 now, and I always said, like, if I get a good teaching, when I was younger, if I get a great teaching gig, I'm not going to play every weekend. I'm gonna be a little more sophisticated. I'm gonna be a little more, you know, take vacations. But as a young musician, when you're hustling, you know, you take every gig. That's
Right.
kind of the mentality, because you have to
Right.
make a living, you know. So that was a life. That was one life. And now I'm in this life where I don't have to do that, yet I still do it.
Still do it.
Right, because I get to play with people like him and do interesting things. You know, it's a fun life. It's a cool life.
It is.
And it's engaging.
I love that you say that you're going to get older and become more sophisticated.
Well,
And the older we get, the more absurd the show
don't
becomes.
take me seriously with that word. Yeah, with this band.
With anything that we do.
It's anathema to
Yeah,
sophisticated.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I mean, though. You just want to make better use of your time and not work all the time as you get older. That's the typical, you know,
Right.
track for most people.
Right.
But I still play just about every Friday and Saturday. When I teach, I try not to work during the week. I try not to play during the week, because then you just you don't have any time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it keeps me young. It keeps me feeling young, and I love interacting with students who are a different demographic. I learn about new music and what's going on in the, you know, the culture through students. I meet all sorts of different musicians, and you know, it's funny as a musician, how often do you meet people and you know faces, but you forget names, and then you feel bad about it.
Oh, all the
Right.
time.
You know, my dad was a well driller, and I remember when I was young.
Really?
Yeah,
What was his name?
he drilled wells in Viter.
What was his name?
Richardson water wells. His name was
Yeah, yeah.
Ronnie Richardson.
Yeah, I know. Well, dang, I had
Did
no
you-
idea.
did you know my
Well, I
dad?
mean, we're in the water business too, so.
Yeah, okay. He probably did a lot of
Yeah,
work
yeah.
for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
But we would be in Walmart, and he'd stop somebody, or they'd stop him, and they would talk for 10, 15 minutes, and I'm just a little kid standing there waiting, twiddling my thumbs. And then the guy would leave and walk off, and I'd say, who is that, Dad? And he'd say, I have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah, so I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now.
Right. Yeah. So, one way to say it is, or ask the question is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self looking back?
Get a job that pays as much money annually as possible and invest it all. And just do that for the next 5 to 10 years.
Invest it all, like, what do you mean?
As much as possible.
Like-
Live in such a way that you can invest as much of your income for 5 to 10 years and work really hardcore when you're young and then retire early.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't get hip to that until later in life.
Too late, yeah.
And then they don't have the compounded growth. They don't have, they're smarter, but they didn't make the moves early.
Yeah.
That's the first thing without hesitation I would tell
I
myself
see.
at 18.
Okay. Work harder and invest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny that you say that, because probably 25, 30 years ago, a guy that worked for an investment firm did a little hypothetical analysis for me. He's like, if you put $1,000 a month into this fund, by the time you're 45 or 50 years old, you'll have, $1.2 million. And I was like, I can't afford to do that. And now I look back and I'm like, I probably should have done that.
Well, we all can do lots of things, but we don't envision ourselves doing
Yeah.
them, because what does it do? It takes away from lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
But in this scenario, it's like, I don't really care for Dave Ramsey that much, but everybody knows him. We've all heard him, right? And he has this phrase. He says, live like no one else now so you can live like no one else later.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? We all could have done it, but we're young and we want to live. We want to spend that money on life.
Yeah. Keyboards.
And keyboards.
And keyboards and
Keyboards and
guitars.
guitars.
Keyboards
And
and
Topo
guitars.
Chico.
More guitars. Can't
Yeah.
have enough.
Yeah. I don't know what I would say looking back.
Well, you're fixing to have one. You're fixing to have an 18-year-old self, your son.
Yeah.
It's sick.
In 16 years.
So what do you? I know, but I'm just saying, maybe work up your speech. Be working on your speech till then. But,
Yeah, I just raising a child. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. My biggest regret is waiting as long as I did. I was so career driven for
Yeah.
so many years.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is now I'm fortunately in a position where if we need something, my wife says, "Hey, we got to go get this." I'm like, "Go get it."
Go get it.
We're not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but I can't, looking back on your 20s and starting a family, I can see the challenges that young people face,
Yeah.
and so now being 50, if we need something, we just go get it, within reason. I mean, we're not,
Right.
going crazy, but just to, tell him to be raised and, be respectful and to just keep an eye on the big picture, really, because not to get so, introspective, but like we talked about earlier, the things that used to matter to all of us, I think, as we're older, it didn't really matter. You look back on it now and you're like, that didn't do anything for me.
Irrelevant.
Now I just want my businesses to be ran properly and to eke out a stable income, and I want to perform music and create music and play music and see music with my friends and with that extended family that we have. I want my son to be exposed to that as much as possible.
You would actually encourage him to become a musician?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're in high school and you play football. Unless you go to college and the NFL, you're done with that. But music is something that you can do your entire life.
Yep.
And in some fields, the
That's
blues.
a great point.
The blues is a great example. Zito, we play for Mike when he's in town, or if he goes on a short tour, I'll go out with him. He's gone out with him. In his world, the older you are, the more respected you are. Unlike pop music, So as Mike progresses with his career, he's becoming more respected and more valuable to himself and to others because he's a veteran blues musician. And that's unlike, country has a little bit of that with, George Strait and that
The
kind
pop
of
music's inverse.
Inverse
Inverse of that, for
At
sure.
As soon as
its
you start
finest.
getting wrinkles, they kind of push you aside.
Yeah.
Yeah, pop's more like film.
It's film, and it's disposable. It's flavor of the day. So I would encourage my son to learn as many instruments as possible. I like to challenge myself and learn other instruments.
You ever heard Frankie
And-
play bass?
Not bass,
Yeah.
even bass.
He
The only
he
thing
and
I've
Jared
ever seen-
Foreman are my first two calls when I can't make a gig.
Is that right?
Yep.
had no
I'll give
idea.
you $20 right now. Thank you. Appreciate it. No,
I saw-
Carl's a world-class bass player.
Oh, my gosh,
so
yeah.
it's,
That's very,
and I
very
had to
glaring.
I had to learn many, many years ago. Arthur Ford, bass player, he used to yell at me because my left hand would get too happy. And I didn't understand at the time. Talking about paradigm shifts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Arthur would always say, "Hey, stay out of stay out of here, you know. And I didn't understand because I wanted to hear the full spectrum of my instrument. I was young, you know, and I would do a lot of this. Now, I try to not go past a certain point. Probably the only time I ever hit a low note is in the beginning of Ride Like the Wind. It's the only time I ever go down there.
Right.
You know? But I also, all my patches, there's a low pass filter.
You mentioned this the other day
Yeah.
for the first time, and I was like, man, that's really thoughtful.
I low pass.
You're clearing out a frequency range for me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you've been doing it the whole time, and now you just mentioned it. I'm like, thank you, Frankie. That's cool,
thank
man.
you, Carl. I'm not the one. I appreciate you. Musically.
Stay out of people's way.
Yeah.
All right. Something. But anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Love you guys. Frankie Randazzo, Carl Richardson. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us, Kelly. This was a lot of fun.
Really enjoyed it.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
So we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.